Hello everyone, we're going to try this video. Um, we've called it Straight Talk About RVs before you jump in and buy. And a lot of you might have been out to YouTube or wherever and saw some videos that basically says all RVs are junk. Well, no, they're not. It's just that you have to understand what you're getting into when you start looking at these RVs. But you got to keep in mind that as you're going down the highway, especially in the U.S., today's highways, they are a rolling earthquake. And they're going to shake, rattle, and roll going down the highway. So things are going to come loose. Trim's going to come loose. If you hit a big enough pothole, it it's going to have some effect. But they're not built like your home, right? Your home doesn't move. So when you're traveling in your RV, it's going to move around inside. So things are going to break. Just expect it. There's nothing you can do about it. So you got to understand too that RVs are not built with the same regulations that your house, with the same safety regulations or quality that your house is going to be built with. There's a whole lot more regulations in building a home and even building a car than there is building an RV. So don't compare it to your house or your car, because you're going to be disillusioned if you do. So RVs are an animal all their own. But you can do some research to help you out and make the best decision that you can when you select an RV. Don't just jump in and buy the first thing you see. Take your time. You're not in any hurry. These things can cost a lot of money. So just take your time, do your research, read a few RV forums, read some RV magazines. Yeah, you can watch some YouTube videos, but and even ours. Just watch them, get what you can get out of them, and then when you go start looking at RVs, maybe it'll keep your light bulb turned on and you'll know what you're looking for. And to me, when we were looking at them, we were looking for the best quality construction and the attention to detail, like the drawers sliding in and out really easy, the cabinet doors lined up, those kind of things when we were looking at the quality of build throughout all the manufacturers. And we went into a ton of different manufacturers' RVs and looked at all kinds of floor plans. We weren't so much mesmerized by the bling stuff that they put in them. We wanted just basic functionality. And so that's what we were looking for when we first started looking at different manufacturers. You also want to take a look at the manufacturers and what the people are saying about their service quality after the sale. Once you buy an RV, there's going to be problems with it, and you're going to have a warranty. And when you take it back to get it fixed, is it going to be a hassle? Or, you're going to be able to take it back and they get right on it. And some of the dealerships, they'll tell you if you didn't buy it here, you go at the end of our line, those kind of things. So just keep that in mind. What is the reputation of the manufacturer after the sale is over with, when you're in your warranty period? We didn't get an extended warranty. We didn't think we needed it, and so far we haven't needed it. But there are those that like those kind of things, and it's not really an extended warranty. It's basically an add-on insurance policy that's going to pay after your warranty is over with for the dealership to fix it. So we didn't get one, and so far in 4 years we haven't really needed it. So there's that. Keep in mind that these RVs, are built, most of them are built by three companies, and that's Forest River, Thor, and Winnebago. Now, in the bigger RVs, there are some independents still, like Brinkley and Alliance. I'm not too sure about the small A-liner types or the teardrops or even the classic ones. I don't believe that they are been bought out by the big companies. But if you're looking at a bigger RV, just understand that most of the time it's going to be built by one of the big three companies. Okay, so keep that in mind when you're looking at manufacturer quality. The manufacturers all use the same kind of appliances: Liebherr, Dometic, Norcold, like for the microwave and the water heater and the refrigerator, and a washer and dryer might be a Splendid name brand. But keep in mind, the manufacturer just gets these appliances from these other companies and just installs them. So when you get to looking at quality of the appliances, I would look for that company that builds them, not necessarily your manufacturer that puts the appliance in the RV. But just to be clear, the appliances are built by somebody else. And you want to take a look at the appliances to make sure that it fits what you're going to need. How big is the refrigerator? Does the microwave, is it also an air fryer or whatever you want in an appliance? Understand too that RVs are handmade. Very little robotics go into building these RVs. And I went through, Tammy and I went through the factory that built ours and watched them being built. And they're all handmade. And when you have something that's almost all handmade, mistakes are going to happen. And you got to keep in mind too how fast they want to run these things down the assembly line. So it's not like your automobile where most of the time they go down a robotic assembly line and everything's perfect when they put it together. Well, that ain't the case with an RV. So just keep that in mind. Also, they want to build these things as cheaply and as light as possible. You got to keep that in mind, because if they build these things like a house, you wouldn't be able to pull it, or you'd have to have a semi truck to pull the thing, because it would weigh so much. So keep it in mind that when you're looking at these things, they want to build them as cheap and as lightweight as possible. Now, there are some exceptions to that depending upon what manufacturer you're talking about, and I'm not here to recommend any manufacturer. So just keep in mind that these things are put together pretty thin. And that kind of leads into other things down the line that we're going to talk about, like insulation and whatnot. But there's an organization, it's called RVIA, the Recreational Vehicle Industry Association. Now, that's basically the people who run the big three companies also are part of the RVIA, and so they kind of set the rules. And so when you're looking at quality and things of that kind of nature, they don't use the same kind of specifications in other industries. So the RVIA is kind of the industry association for RVs. So most of them will adhere to those specifications, but again, you just got to keep it in mind that that organization, RVIA, isn't associated with anything else. And the people that sit on the RVIA boards are typically the people who have the big corporations like Thor and Forest River and Winnebago. So that kind of brings us up to what these RVs are like. And whether you go for the very smallest one or you go for the biggest one, you got to keep in mind a lot of different things. And what are you going to use this RV for, right? What kind of needs do you have? They got to be kind of, let's just say you got to be realistic about how you're going to use it and what your needs are. Now, your needs can change down the road, but what are your needs in the intended use that you're going to put this RV through? Are you going to be like weekenders, part-timers, full-timers? You're going to be on the road constantly with it. Those kind of things are things to think about. Are you going to want to do a lot of boondocking, which is where you take your RV out in the middle of a field and you have no connections. You've got what you got. No sewer, no water, no power. And so if you're going to be doing that, then you need to think about a few things down the road. The capabilities that this RV is going to be built with. Are you going to be using this thing in fair weather, chasing the sun? You're going to be winter camping in it? That's going to determine like a Four Seasons, truly a Four Seasons or Arctic Fox type of a thing, where you got a lot of insulation, you got double pane windows, those kind of things. If you're going to be winter camping in it, because let me tell you, it's not fun when it's below zero in these RVs if it's not built for it. You're going to have water freeze ups, so you're going to have cold air gaps. Your propane furnace isn't going to be able to keep up with it. So just keep in mind how you're going to use this thing. Where are you going to go? So those are some things to think about. And once you get done thinking about all that, now there is just a ton of RVs out there. Whether it's a motorhome, a class A, B, or C, whether it's a travel trailer or a fifth wheel or a toy hauler, a retro classic RV that's been rebuilt, the little A-liners or the teardrops or a truck camper. There's just so many different types of RVs out there. So you need to kind of focus in on what kind of RV do you want? And that is going to help make some decisions with you about what kind of vehicle, if you get a travel trailer or a fifth wheel, what kind of truck you're going to need to pull it. Then too, if you decide a motorhome's the way to go, then you might need a towed, a car, a Jeep, a truck, something to tow behind it so you can go to the grocery store. Or you're going to break camp and drive your big motorhome to the store every time you need groceries. Those are the kind of things you need to think about. I know a lot of people get toy haulers and they put a motorcycle in the back with a sidecar or whatever. So think ahead of how you're going to use this thing and what best is going to fit your needs. Now, right now, we're full-timing in a fifth wheel. And when we were looking at them, Tammy helps drive the rig. So when she sat down in the front seat of a motorhome and said, "No way, Jose, I can't drive this thing." And so that was one of the reasons we picked a fifth wheel. Another reason is if you need to fill up with propane and you got a motorhome, you're going to have to drive it to where the propane station is, because those tanks don't come out. They're fixed. So with our fifth wheel, we can take our 30-pound bottles out, go get them filled, and bring them back. So there's good points and bad points to all of the RVs. You just got to figure out which one is best going to fit your need. And if you get a trailer of some type, travel trailer, fifth wheel, toy hauler, you got to think about what you're going to need for a hitch. If you got a travel trailer, you're going to need a weight distribution hitch, more likely. If you got a fifth wheel, you're going to need an in the truck bed hitch, fifth wheel hitch. And believe me, hitches are not cheap. So keep that in mind when you're looking at trailers, that you're going to need a hitch. And look ahead, see what the prices are on some of the hitches that you might need, given the length and the weight of the RV trailers that you're looking at. Just keep it in mind what kind of a hitch you're going to need. And even if you got a towed for a motorhome and you want to pull it behind it, think about what kind of tow bar, what kind of tow mechanism you want behind your motorhome, pulling your towed. So that's just some of the things to keep in mind. And a lot of times people don't think about these kind of things when they first start looking at RVs. They kind of get starry-eyed, and all of a sudden they go buy something and oh my God, we need a 1-ton dually to pull this thing? Well, we didn't think about that. So you got to really kind of think ahead. And then you got to look at, are you going to get a new RV that has a warranty? You're going to get an old RV that maybe has a extended warranty on it. Get one a couple of years old. That all depends. I mean, there's some very good used RVs out there, but keeping in mind that they're probably not going to have a warranty with them. So you want to make sure that if you're going to buy a used one, that everything works and there's nothing wrong with it. And if you're going to go that route, I would strongly urge you to go get an independent inspector, like an RVIA inspector. They'll come out, they'll go through it with a fine-tooth comb and see if they can find anything wrong with it. All of the appliance work, the water system, the electric system, the plumbing system. I mean, when you look for a used one, you got to really look at them. And even so, too, with a new RV, you got to go through the PDI, which is pre-delivery inspection. You go through it, and you make sure that everything is okay before you sign on the dotted line to take possession of that RV. So just keep in mind these kind of things when you're looking for used and new. I got my cheat sheet here in front of me so I don't forget anything. One of the things you got to think about too is if you've never pulled an RV before, are you going to be able to drive it? Now, realistically, look at your capabilities. Are you going to be able to pull this thing and be comfortable pulling it? So, I mean, your first RV, you go out and you buy a 40-footer and you got a 1-ton dually and you're going down the road at about 57 feet and you're probably, 35, 40,000 pounds. Realistically, look at your capabilities and see if you're comfortable towing that thing. Go ahead and get a training course. There's driver's training courses that will teach you how to drive them, how to change lanes with them, how to back them up, how to turn them, how to park them, things to look for. I would strongly urge you to go get some training and have them teach you how to pull and maneuver a big RV, even a motorhome. I mean, some of those motorhomes can get huge and you got a toad back there behind it. So you got to remember that it's back there. And so there's training courses that will teach you how to drive these. To go along with that, some states require you to have a special driver's license. If you get an RV, a rig that weighs a certain amount. Now, there's a lot of states that don't have any restrictions. Some do. So check to make sure that your state does or does not have a special driver's license for RVs. Now, we're residents of Texas, and Texas does have regulations. If your combined weight is over 26,001 pounds and the trailer you're pulling is over 10,000 pounds, then you have to have a Class A non-CDL to drive it, to tow it. If your motorhome is over a certain weight, then you got to have like a Class B license. It's not a CDL. It equates really to an RV. It's an exempt. So it's exempt from CDL. So it's not a commercial driver's license. It's just a weight license. Again, some states have them, some don't. But check to make sure so that when you're looking at buying one of these RVs, you know that ahead of time. And I wouldn't trust any RV salesman to tell me the truth. Go find out for yourself. Go talk to your Department of Transportation, or in Texas, I think it's Department of Public Service. So that's one thing to check. Another thing is, think about this. When you're traveling down the road in this big, huge rig, how you going to refuel? Okay? You try to pull some of these big rigs into these little gas stations, let me tell you, you ain't going to get in them. Or you're going to take a pump or something with you. And a lot of these stations don't have any height measurements on them. So I'm telling you, for us, we are 13 foot 6 inches in height, right? We weigh almost 32,000 pounds and we're 54 feet long. And so we always, when we're towing, we use the truck stops, the truck lanes. Now, once we drop the RV someplace, then we'll go use a small gas station to refuel. But just think about refueling. If you got a small rig, not a big problem. But if you got a fairly big rig, you got to think about refueling. Also think about, where are you going to take this thing? Are you going to be going to local RV campgrounds, or are you going to be going to state parks, national parks, things of that nature? A lot of these parks have a restriction on length, and somewhere between 32 and 35 feet is the maximum length. And you got to check with those campgrounds to make sure that you'll fit. So just keep it in mind when you're looking at these RVs, if you're going to be doing a lot of state parks or Corps of Engineers or those kind of things, you might want to think about the length that you're going to get. Now, private campgrounds, usually not a problem. I mean, they'll take the biggest rigs. You might be limited as to how many spaces they got for big rigs, but usually private campgrounds, they don't have a restriction. So just think about where you're going to be camping at. And if you're going to be going boondocking, don't worry about it. I mean, you can go out in the middle of nowhere in a big field and, hey, ain't nobody around you. So just think about how you're going to use this RV. How many people are going to be with you? You're going to have little kids. You need bunk beds. And if you got real little kids and the bunk bed's too high, you're going to have something to keep them in that bunk bed so they don't roll out. And ladders to get up in the bunk beds. So all these things that you have to look at when you start looking at floor plans and how you're going to use it, where you're going to go. If you're going to go cross country, how much fuel is it going to take? And are you going to be comfortable pulling this 40-foot rig 15, 16, 2,000 miles cross country? It's just something to think about. And if you're going to be doing a lot of boondocking, think about solar power. A lot of the RVs come with solar power, but you got to think about how long you're going to be boondocking. How long are you going to be without hookups? So you got to think about your battery bank. You got to think about your solar panels. You got to think about, well, what happens if there's not a lot of sun and I can't get my batteries recharged from the solar panels? I may have to have a generator to top off my batteries. And how big of a battery bank you're going to need, depending on how many days you want to stay off the grid if you don't have a generator. You also got to think about your holding tanks. What size of holding tanks? How big a freshwater tank you're going to need for the family that's going to be using this RV, and your black tank and your gray tank. And where you're going to dump them if you're out boondocking someplace. So, think about all these things before you start looking at RVs. I mean, you can have wonderful time out there. Let me tell you, we just love the RV life. But if you get your ducks in a row and you think about these things before you start buying, it's a much better, pleasant experience, let me tell you. Some other things to think about: your bathroom size. Sit on the john. Hey, if I got enough elbow room, can I turn around in this thing? What about the shower? I mean, some mothers, they like bathtubs for their kids. That's fine. Just keep it in mind. We talked about winter camping and Four Seasons, multiple entry doors. You want to be able to get into this thing in and out? The other thing I would look at too, and people don't even think about this, is what are the emergency exits to get out of there? Now, we've got one upstairs in our bedroom, and the whole back window here in our RV is an emergency exit. But check to see where they're at. How many there are? Are they practical? Now, I got to tell you, the one that's up there in our bedroom, I'm 67 years old, and it would kill me to get out of that little bitty window up there. I got to tell you. But hey, it's there. And we even got a ladder that we can hook onto the windowsill, throw it out the window, and hopefully climb out of it. But that's something to think about. How many fire extinguishers are in these RVs? Buy some more. Think about those kind of things. We talked about double pane windows. What about a leveling system? You want just stabilizers? Do you want an automatic leveling system where you can just punch a button and let it do its thing? Okay, that's fine. Do you want an electric system or do you want a hydraulic system? So look at the pros and cons to all of those and see what's going to best fit your needs. You want the remote control app so you can stand out there with your iPhone and make your RV do all kinds of things. Those are the kind of things you need to think about when you're looking at these RVs and what kind of systems they have in them. Storage space and cargo space. Let me tell you, that's a biggie. With the RV that we have over 4,000 pounds of cargo capacity. Hey, we're full timers. We don't have a house. So what we got. Now, if you're going to go weekending, you're going to be going 2 weeks vacation. You may not need a lot of cargo room, but think about it. You don't want to overload these RVs. The suspension systems in these things, they're just barely adequate for the RV itself and what the cargo capacity is. Don't go over it. You're just don't. But look at the cargo capacities of it. And usually on the outside tag, usually on the left side of the RV, it's going to show you or tell you what the cargo capacity is. So that's something you want to think about. And if you got a lot of lawn chairs, you got your grill, you got a fire pit, you got all the kids' toys and all this kind of stuff. Think about how you're going to get all that inside the RV. Or carried in your pickup truck. If you've got a pull-out kitchen on your RV that's got refrigerator stuff in it, you got to think about, how am I going to use this thing? So just some things to think about. Refrigerators, yeah, you look at them. What size? Are they propane, 110 volt? Are they 12 volt only? Are they a residential fridge? Figure out what you want. If you're going to go boondocking a lot, a residential refrigerator is going to take a lot of power to keep it running. That's just a residential fridge, just like you got in your house. And they're going to take a lot of power to run those things. Not a problem if you've got the capability. You're going to go boondocking a lot, think more about maybe a propane or 12 volt system. So just keep it in mind when you're looking at all these RVs. I talked about an outdoor kitchen. Supplemental heat. Now, if you're going to go out in the fall, and we've been stuck in the wintertime when it's below zero, and we've got a propane furnace. Now, it does a pretty good job. But let me tell you, when it gets below zero, you're going to need some supplemental heat. And so we've got electric heaters. We've also got electric built-in fireplace, and that comes in handy. And a lot of other things you can do to it. Your double pane windows, or if you don't have those, you can get that 3M shrink filming, put it around your windows, use a hairdryer, shrink it up. It's going to cut down on your cold air drafts. But think about, if you're going to be camping in this thing in the wintertime, or these cold spells, think about the options you have to get through those times and make it comfortable inside. Here's another thing to think about. If you're going to go camping in the middle of the summer and you're going to be in Tucson, Arizona, think about having 2 air conditioners. 3's better. But let me tell you, you get out there in that heat and you got 1 air conditioner, no way is it going to keep up. So think about multiple air conditioners when you're looking at these rigs, because if you're going to do a lot of summer camping, you're going to want air conditioning, believe me. And double pane windows can come in and help. They'll keep the heat out and the warm air in. Yes, dual pane windows are going to add some weight to the RV and cut down on your cargo capacity. But it all depends on what you want. But Tammy and I have been out in Tucson, and let me tell you, it's a beautiful place out there. We love it, but it's hot. when you're sitting out there with those cacti, and let me tell you, it's 110 degrees out there, you're going to want air conditioning, believe me. So think about air conditioning. You want a washer and dryer, make sure it's got the connections in it. Now, we do in ours, but we don't have a washer and dryer. We take our stuff to a laundromat. Now, you can do it whatever way you want. That's a great thing about RVing, because you can do it however you want. And there's no right and no wrong to RVing. You can do it however you want. It's just personally, we don't have a washer and dryer, even though we've got the connections for it. Sleeping quarters, partitions, doors, curtains, those kind of things, so you can close it off and have a little bit of privacy. You want to think about those kind of things. Just check out the floor plan and make sure that everybody's got their privacy. Entertainment systems, yeah, you can look at those. Whatever your needs are going to be here. We don't have an outside TV. I wouldn't turn it on even if we had one. You want to respect your neighbors, not having loud stereo systems and TVs blaring in the middle of the night. Now, the stereo system that we had in here originally 4 years ago broke, and we never fixed it. We went and got a surround sound system that was really reasonable. It sounds much better, and we use a sound bar surround sound system, and we actually bought it at Costco, I'll tell you that. But so think about what kind of entertainment you want. A lot of you don't know a lot about the suspensions of these RVs, but think about the suspension. Take a look at it. The leaf spring suspension and the tires and the drum brakes, that's been around for decades. Way back. Now, a lot of the RVs, some of them come with disc brake options. Some of them come with independent suspension options. Take a look at that. Now, I can tell you in 4 years, we've got a leaf spring suspension with drum brakes. I can tell you it's not the best in the world, but we've not had any problems with it over 4 years. But we're not overweight either. And we don't drive 70, 80 mile an hour down the road. Most we ever drive is 65. And we've got a tire pressure monitoring system on the RV. So we know if a tire is losing air. It ain't going to help you on a blowout. But think about the suspension system. If you can get an upgrade, think about doing it. Again, it depends upon how many miles you're going to be driving or pulling an RV, and whether you want to put out the extra dollars for an upgraded suspension. But just think about it. The best thing I can tell you is just when you're looking, go to several of these RV shows, look at the floor plans. Excuse me, if you narrow it down to a couple of manufacturers, go ask the people that own them. I'm just going to tell you, we have a Grand Design. It's made by Winnebago. It's a 2019 that was made in the fall of 2018. We've been full-timing in it now almost 4 years, and we haven't had a whole lot of troubles with it. And that's what we did. We went out to RV shows. We talked to the people at the RV shows. We signed up for forums and read on the forums what the people were saying about them and those kind of things. And we just happened to get a huge discount in 2018 when we bought this. So there's a lot of things help make our decision. But take your time. Look and see what's out there. Don't just jump in and buy something, because you may be disappointed if you do. We don't like a lot of the bling. We don't want touchscreens. We don't want fancy dancing around with our RV. We just plain Jane, Of course, we're baby boomers. We don't like all that crap. So if you do, that's great. No problem. But think about, if it don't work, how are you going to get the lights turned on? If there's a way around it. So just think about those kind of things. Before you go jumping in and buying one of these things. That way, when you do buy one, you're happy with what you bought. So it's just a few tips for you to think about before you buy one of these RVs, because let me tell you, they get expensive. And you don't want to plop down a whole bunch of money and then turn around and want to trade it in a year. You're going to be upside down on it. Just think about some of these kind of things. Go look at them before you buy. Even rent one if you can. You can go to some of these companies out there that they rent like a motorhome Class C or maybe even a Class A. I'm not sure they rent travel trailers, but maybe they do. If you can go rent one or borrow somebody's, for a couple of weeks or a weekend or whatever, you see if you like it or not. Before we went full time, we had a 32-foot travel trailer, and it wasn't very big. I mean, we just went for weekends and maybe a vacation or two or something like that, and we found out we were going to love the RV lifestyle. And then we started looking for what was going to be our full-time rig. So when we decided the manufacturer, we decided on what the floor plan and the fifth wheel. Then we traded in our travel trailer once. And we got the right truck once to pull it. And so, yeah, we've got a 1-ton Ram diesel with dual wheels. It's a dually. But let me tell you, you get in some of the mountains, you go over Denver, and you'll wish you had a bigger truck. So just think about some of these things before you jump in and buy, is all we're saying. And like I said before, there's no right or wrong to RVing. You can do it however you want. And that's when you're the most happy, when you can do the things you want to do, and the RV that you bought fits your needs. I've seen a family of 6 with 4 kids in a 35-foot RV, But price is also a consideration, but don't equate price with quality. Just because you pay $200,000, that doesn't mean you're going to get better quality. Not necessarily. So just look at everything that's out there. Take your time. Be methodic. And then once you decide this is what I want, then maybe we can put together a video that says, okay, now that you bought this thing, now what do I do? So I'll put something together for that and give you our take on over 4 years of full-timing. But I just thought we'd go over these few things. If we've helped you stir the old gray cells and light bulb come on, that's great. But hey, it's all about the trip. It's all about the fun. It's all about making memories. So take care out there and be safe. Thank you.